time. I'd like to do today a top 5 episodes. So top 5 of last year of 2019. Was going through this stuff and it was so exciting to see. We had so much great accomplishment last year. We did 34 episodes, which blew my mind. I didn't realize how many episodes we did. So much work, so much fun, so much information shared. And I wanted to go over the top 5. I don't know if you're new to the show or if you're looking at, what we do, what we got going on, where do you start? A lot of questions. We get in some of that. So I figured let's just, go over the top 5 most popular episodes we had last year. And then also some of my favorites and stuff. So to start it off, number 5 was Cash Flow Quadrants Part 1. We did an episode just a little easier to follow. Seems like Part 1 is the most popular one. I think also last year this also made the list of top 5 episodes. The first part was the E and S, the employee and the self-employed. We went through all those different things. Real fun episode. That was one of the first ones Ransom and I had did back in the day. Ransom's really is into all that kind of stuff, and he really likes that stuff. That was a really fun episode. And then number 4 was the very first book review we ever did on this episode. Episode 5 was we're back with Justin. I don't know if you guys remember way back when, over 2 years ago now when the show started, we did that. Very first book review was Principles by Ray Dalio. An amazing book. It's a hefty read. That is a thick book. For those in the video here, I mean, this book is huge. I think I want to say it's probably like 500 pages. Yeah. Just a little over 500 pages. It's a great book. It's heavy, it's thick, but it's easily digestible. It's broken up into 2 sections, makes it really easy to go through. Real great book. Ray Dalio, he's got a thinking style of processes, procedures, lists. He's constantly, from where I understand it, constantly revising these lists, constantly going through stress testing things. I mean, that's how this guy's become a self-made billionaire. He's a hedge fund investor. If you don't know who Ray Dalio is, he's also, since the making of that book, he did a children's one. I want to get on. He really liked it. It's really well done. It's nice, kind of animated. They also did an animated series as well. All of these things were done after the episode. I have gone back and I've edited the show notes for that episode, added some of these new things. The animated short film they did, real great. I think it's 30 minutes long. It is broken. They do have one 30-minute long video, and then also they have whatever, I don't know, 5 or 6 broken up videos with each section is its own video. We're a few minutes long, but I think the whole video is about 30 minutes long. It's a great video. It's a amazing, I guess, distillation of the book, of those 500 pages down into the core principles, concepts, and easy animated version. I really highly recommend checking it out if the book maybe is a little much, or if you want to get before you get the book and you invest in a lot, it's going to be quite some time, and it's definitely worth it in reading such a large book. Check out that video, see if there's something that interests you, or maybe just watching the video, get the core concepts you need from that. And then seems to be the top episodes on the show, or the book reviews. Maybe I should do more of those. Maybe that's what you guys like. I don't know what is with the book reviews, but at number 3, 12 Rules of Life, an Antidote to Chaos, Jordan Peterson. That was the third book we did, episode 15. That episode is a monster episode. That book is also, it's not as big, but it is heavy. This book comes in at just around 400 pages. That's a really great book. Unbelievable. Jordan Peterson does a great job. Controversial guy, but I think he does a great job of distilling down things. I don't have to agree with everything in the book, but it makes you think. It makes you, and I think that's the point a lot of times with these books is it really shouldn't be gospel or something along those lines, doctrination of some idea or philosophy. It's just something to think. Update some of your maybe beliefs, challenge some of your beliefs, or whatever it is. It's a great book. That episode, though, that is a monster episode. There's so much that goes in this book. There's so much nuance to it. There's so much it just really there's a lot. I think the episode is like 3 hours long. I know it's a lot. I know it's a long episode unless you're a Joe Rogan fan, and that's just a normal day at the park. But it's a really good episode. We go we go chapter by chapter because there's so much deep information. There's so much nuance. There's so much to that book. But however, what I did do was on YouTube. If you head over to our YouTube channel, I believe it's Social Chameleon, youtube.com/Social Chameleon Show. Take you right to our YouTube channel. I broke out each chapter of the book that we did in the book review into small bite-sized episodes. I think they're anywhere between 10, 12, 15 minutes or so long, depends on how long we went in the chapter, but I did break it down. There's also a playlist on the YouTube channel. So you can just go through and kind of cherry pick those things. The title might not make sense. They're very kind of ambiguous titles. Don't bother kids skateboarding, pet a cat when you see it, stuff like that. So the title may not be conducive to what you're going to hear about or whatever, but go through and check that out. See the YouTube page. It's this. I think last year this was like the number 1 or 2 episodes, so it's definitely held in there. All these years later, it's still it's number top 3. And then number 2, which is to me a little bit of a surprise because this is a bit of a unknown book. It was the Civilization and Its Discontents by Sigmund Freud. That book, weird, crazy book. If you're not familiar with him, he has kind of a esoteric, I think the word is, kind of guy. He was a psychologist. He did a lot of crazy experiments and different things, and that book has got a lot of sexual innuendos in it. So it's an interesting read. The episode, I mean, we obviously talked about some of those things in a nicest way, kindest way possible without being too, not vulgar, but explicit, I guess is the word. But it's a great book. It's good things in there, real fun, very fun episode. We laugh and giggle a lot because, there's a lot of sex type things in it. But it's one of those lesser known, I think, kind of books. I've never heard of it. Ransom brought this book up. I've since seen a couple copies around a used bookstore once in a great while or whatever. But it's number 2. Very surprising to me because, like I said, it's a little known book, but it got your guys' attention. And then at number 1, coming in, with downloads all year long. This is from the podcast version. This isn't from any other sources. So this list is according to podcast downloads. Number 1, guess what? It's a book review. I know, crazy. The top 4 out of 5 are book reviews. The Power of Intention by Wayne Dyer. I never heard of this guy, and I read it after the episode, but it's the number 1 episode. You guys love it. You guys like either it's Wayne Dyer's thing or it's the Power of Intention. It's either the title or the author. I don't know what it is. You guys love it. It's number 1. And if you guys haven't listened to any of these, maybe you're new to the show, whatever it is, go check out these. Here's the top 5 listener voted, I guess you could say, with downloads, things. Some honorable mentions. The very first episode we ever did, Mindset. I think that's probably because people new to the podcast, they just go and they hit number 1. And that's why I think that's there. Because then subsequently after that, the next most popular episode is number 2. Environments, relationships, and networking. Also a live episode we did on Facebook Live, Instagram Live, way back then. And then the next honorable mention was episode 7 we did on failure. That was the first episode where I introduced Ransom to the podcast. He came in. We started doing episodes together. That was the very first one he and I did together. That was a really fun episode. We had a really good time. Going through the failures, looking back and all this, reminiscing is fun sometimes, and especially years and years and years later. And when you get to learn from the things that you did back then, when you learn from the lessons, you look back, you can laugh how dumb you were. What were we thinking? Why didn't we hustle? Why didn't we maybe put more effort into it? Whatever it is, like looking back on that stuff is fun. And also looking back, saying all the things you did. Like a lot of times, there's the recency factor and these things that, we revisionist history in our minds, our memories. We don't remember things the way we think we do, If you wrote down your memories of this right now, and in a year you revisited it and you said, oh yeah, I remember exactly what happened, and you retold that story, but you looked at your notes, you would not believe what your notes said. It's like, no way, that never happened. That's not what I remember. Trust me, my memory is great. I remember it. No, we constantly, our memories are constantly evolving and they're constantly changing. So looking back and laughing to ourselves years and years later about these things, that's really, really fun. Episodes. I think it's because of her following, really loyal to hear her speak. She's really great. She's been on the show twice now. So if you heard the second one, which is a more recent episode, and you haven't heard the first one, go back and check the first one. It's a very, very popular episode. And then number 4, rounding out the honorable mentions, business and marketing. That was the 4th episode we ever did on the show. That was another Facebook Live event we did. That was a fun one. Me and Justin, we had a good conversation about different things. We talked about some of the local ads around here and some of our different thoughts on those things. That was a very fun episode. Check that out. And then as I was going through all this, I started thinking to myself, what was the episodes I had either the most fun making, or they were the most informational, or whatever it was. So I looked through all the episodes last year, all 34 episodes we did, which still blows my mind. I can't believe we did so many episodes. And that's just what we published. That's not what we recorded. We recorded even more than that. They wind up coming out later in the year here during this year. But the ones as I looked through the list, I kind of blew my mind, for whatever reason. The first one, in no particular order, just kind of the way, as I looked through the list, the way they went out, was their movie review we did. If you haven't seen that, go check that out. The movie review. It was a great honor to be asked to review this movie before it came out. It's kind of like one of those, I would say, docu-series kind of things in a way. It was Generation Freedom. It was a great movie, great information. They have a great information package they've also put around the thing. Their mission around that movie and around that project is to help this generation, or any generation for that matter, find freedom in working for yourself in a side project, a micro business, as they call it. Hey, man, this sucks. Like, that's going to suck to have to say this, but it turned out it was really good. It was really fun. Check out the episode. Better yet, check out the movie. It's linked at the episode page. Go check that out. The next one on my list is 32 the new 40? So that premise is 32 hours in a work week the new 40-hour work week? So getting rid of the 40-hour work week in lieu of a 32-hour work week, which generally most people think about as lopping off, either the Friday. Some people I've heard, they allow their employees to split up. Some people do a Monday, Tuesday, take Wednesday off, and then do a Thursday, Friday. Some people do a Monday. Most people seem to do a Friday. But after, I don't know if I talked about in this episode, but definitely after recording this episode, and something I always think about, and it's not just a lot of people, it's just lazy. But if we think and we try to go back, we try to figure out, where did this 40-hour work week come from? From my understanding, Henry Ford just figured that was the best schedule for his factory assembly line employees to work, was 5 8-hour days. That was the best way to get the most production out of his employees. And the way I understand the story is that's just where this came from, and it's just stuck. So now what happens is I think we talked about this in an episode. I forget the principle or rule or whatever it's called, but we allow the project or the job or whatever to fill the time allotted. So if you're given a job and you're giving 40 hours over 5 days to do it, you're going to take all that time to do it. So now so the surprising facts and things that come out of this, when organization people do this, is that they find that when they do a 32-hour work week, is nothing is lost. There's no production loss. There's no quality of service loss, because guess what? People do the amount of work that time is allotted for. So these people now have X amount of things to do in 32 hours. And guess what? You get it done. So now what a lot of research and different studies and stuff is, surveys and different types of things have found, is the average worker across multiple countries. Let's just kind of come up with in the Canada is a little different, and the UK is a little different, America's a little different. But for the most part, the average worker only works about an hour and a half to 2 hours a day. So nothing about that sounds crazy. I know everybody's like, no, fuck that. I'm at work for 8 hours. I'm doing 8 hours of work. You may feel like you're doing 8 hours of work, and maybe you are doing 5 or 6 hours of work. And I've talked about this to other people after this episode. And, when you start to think about it, you're like, yeah, maybe I only do 4 or 5 hours of work, because you have to think about it. You're talking to other people, and then it's not necessarily frivolous talk or frivolous chat. It's talking about your work, or talking about your project, or talking about upcoming things, or talking about past things, or it's you're in meetings, or you're on the phone, or you're handling things. There's interruptions, there's distractions, there's emails that come through, and there's different things that come through. Yes, they're all part of your job, but work is not necessarily getting done. And then on top of that, a lot of times, I do this all the time, especially when I had a 9 to 5 type of job, is I'd finish my work quite quickly in most cases, and then I would fuck around because I had nothing else to do. And that's just something that happens, and then especially nowadays with smartphones up in our pockets all the time, there's constant distractions, which I've talked about on the show numerous times. And that's just something I'm becoming more and more conscious of. I'm trying to limit my exposure and my usage of technology. And my goal I've set for myself lately is I'm trying to keep my phone usage screen on time on my phone. I can see it show at the end of the day. It shows me a quick little synopsis of how long my phone is on all day long. And my goal is to keep it under 2 hours a day. I have all my notifications off except for a few I have marked a couple of people important. Other than that, no notifications come through. The only notifications that possibly could ever come through are text messages and phone calls. Everything else is turned off. All social media, which I've removed all social media from my phone except for Instagram and Facebook, a couple of features that are just easier to use on mobile. That's just how they're designed. And then my personal email, everything else is gone off my phone. I don't have any other emails logged in on my phone. I deleted all the other social media apps. So not this past December, but the December of 2018, I did a challenge or whatever you want to call it. I deleted all the social media apps from my phone or disabled them, whatever was possible. And after I was done with that, I did that for a week last year. I think it was a day after Christmas or something along those lines, to the New Year's, whatever it was, a week. And what I found was I never needed to reinstall those apps. And so I left them off my phone, Twitter and LinkedIn and whatever else was on my phone, which deleted them. And then now I have my calendar. I scheduled time. Let me see what I have here scheduled. So after lunch, for my schedule, 2 to 2:30, barring nothing else is happening, I check my messages in the afternoon. Whatever messages I have, emails, checks, I check them on the computer. I pull it up, I see what's happening. 9 out of 10 times, nobody's dead. And if they were, whatever message was not going to save their life. So it's not a big deal. That works for my life. I know some jobs and some things that's just not possible. But challenge that. Challenge why it's not possible. And really free yourself from that. And that's kind of long rant on that. Something I'm passionate about. I'm always constantly trying to pull away from that. I really am looking at trying to get rid of my smartphone. There's just a couple things like GPS. It's very nice. Mobile banking is very nice. Sometimes you're out in the middle of nowhere and you need to transfer some money or send some money to somebody. That's nice. But I'm always looking at how can I take my phone out of my life without sacrificing quality or anything along those lines. But I challenge you guys to do that too. Challenge his assumptions. Do you need to answer your email within 4 seconds coming through? And that's the average response time. Emails are open within 4 seconds of receipt. I would really challenge you to see how unnecessary that really, really is. Schedule some time in a day, 2-3 times a day to check your email, and that's it. And get back to work. And not in a asshole sense. Just get back to doing something. I mean, if your job's boring and you run out of work before the day is over, but you got to stay on the clock for 8 hours, maybe talk to your boss about working from home. Maybe find something else to do with your time. I don't know. Maybe a pet project or something you work on. Man, a micro business. I tell you, I like that word. I love it. Anyway, next favorite episode of mine is Ryan Holiday article we did an episode on. If it's not simple, it's bullshit. This concept I continuously come back to. The premise is if you can't explain something, I think it was to a fifth grader or to an 8-year-old, something along those lines, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. You don't fully understand it. And I have a 9-year-old. And if anybody out there's got children, you know how many questions they ask. And what I've come to realize is how many things I know, but I can't explain it. Word, concept, or something that I can't explain. And every time my son asks me something, or whoever asks me something for that matter, mostly my son is where I know it, I think, and I can't explain it, I think to myself, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You don't fully understand this. And it's something that's nice to go back and revisit, and it gives me the opportunity to go back and say, hey, to look back and go through this. I recommend highly checking this out and applying this here, like looking at the things that we think we know. And, we have a feel of words or sentences or ideas, but when you either look it up or you try to explain it, really kind of unearth how much we don't know. And then the last one on my favorites list is something over the past definitely that's been kind of near and dear to my heart is a book review, Why We Sleep. Sleep, it's kind of becoming a little bit more mainstream, but for many, many, many years and decades even, if not longer, that's been something that's been kind of shunned. We don't need to sleep. I sleep when I die. All this kind of nonsense. And we're really, really finding out how important sleep really is and how much we really need. Even though we feel fine, there's a difference between, I get 4 hours sleep, 5 hours sleep. I feel fine. Of course, as a human race, as a human being, we're remarkable at adapting to thrown us, to being able to function seemingly just fine on less sleep, But the reality is it's bullshit. It's not true. And in fact, if you were to spend a little less time at work or whatever it is you're doing that's not allowing you to get these, 7 to 9 hours of sleep, you really actually perform better. You'll actually be more productive. You'll actually be more effective and be more efficient at the things you're doing. And the more I learn about it, which is kind of why this, of all the things we've done last year, that one, especially as far as books go, that's just something that really stuck out to me. And I really had a lot of fun learning more about that, optimizing my environment, talking with people about it, and also seeing in the world now, it's becoming a little bit more accepted. And I've even kind of started hearing big kind of name people bragging in a way of how much sleep they're getting. And that's really refreshing to see. There's a ton of information in the episode and so much more in the book. We couldn't even possibly cover everything in the book. I do link to some other podcast episodes that Matthew Walker was in. There's a great 3-part series on Dr. Peter Attia's podcast, The Drive, which is also a great podcast I recommend. If you're into that type of, he does longevity-based things and sleep. There you go. If you want to live longer, this is something that just cannot be denied, is sleep. And especially with the time it's recording here in March of 2020, daylight savings time in America, everybody loses an hour of sleep. So now imagine if you're going to sleep for 5 hours a night already, and then you just, as you're sleeping in the middle of the night, an hour just disappears. And that's what calling these sleep trackers. Like I have this my ring here on my finger, my Aura ring. And since getting this, it really opened my eyes. You think, I slept good last night. I look at my data. I'm like, oh, I woke up 3 times. I don't remember this, but these things affect your stuff. I notice when I'm a little too full before I go to bed, isn't able to fall to that low level it needs to be at, or sometimes even the chart isn't quite nice. Usually it's this big steep cliff drop off instead of what we want to see is like a hammock thing in the middle of the night. You're at your lowest peak and it goes and it swings back up before you wake up. So a lot of times when I have a late meal and then go to sleep, my heart rate is at the lowest right before I wake up. And that's just something that's just not good. And also that something I never would have known if I wasn't cognizant of my sleep and trying to constantly optimize, finding things out. I know maybe a month or so ago, maybe something like that. It started getting a little warmer here. And so I haven't had to have AC or heat or anything on in my house because the weather was so pleasant. But what had happened was it was really cold. It was, in the 30s and whatnot, upper maybe upper 20s, lower 30s at night and in the morning. So, all the windows are closed up and sometimes the heat might come on or whatever it is. So the windows are closed. And I noticed I wasn't getting very good sleep. And I was, so I started looking at my sleep data and I was like, why am I getting, why am I not getting sleep? So and then I look and, oh, my body temperature is elevated. Well, why is my body temperature elevated? Well, generally, that's a sign of sickness coming on, illness coming on. So, no, everything's fine. I didn't get sick. And then I started looking around at the temperature in my room. Windows closed. And so the air conditioner is also not on, but it's also not cold enough in the house. And there's an optimal range for sleeping. That's good for sleeping. So all I did was crack my bedroom window, maybe 2 inches, and then all my sleep data and my sleep and everything just fell into place. I started sleeping good. My heart rate and my different thing, my body temperature came back down. All these different things came back down, my restlessness, and all these things associated with warm weather. And I know maybe that's not something you can necessarily control, depending on where you live and your economic status. But knowing these, maybe we can afford a fan, or maybe we can lower our air conditioning a bit, or we can pop open a window. But without knowing these things, without thinking about them, without being cognizant of them, without being aware of them, these are things that we're just not doing. So I highly recommend checking out this episode and taking sleep seriously. It's a thing that we really need to do. I know I've rambled on quite a bit on these things, but that was the top 5 of 2019. It was so exciting to go through this, relive all these things, and think about all these different things. That's such a great time all of last year, and so much more to come. I think I've gotten better, not just at producing the podcast and making episodes and interviewing people. I think I've gotten better at talking. I know I ramble. I'm still working on that. But it's just so much fun. If anything, I've learned a lot. I've just gotten better, and I'm just going to keep getting better. And I encourage you folks to keep getting better as well. I encourage you folks to keep challenging limitations, keep challenging status quo, constantly evaluating things, reevaluating things, maybe quarterly, maybe biannually, whatever it is that works for you, whatever your goals are. Don't have any, write them down. Who cares? They don't have to be these big grandiose things that everybody else is. What is important to you? Write those down, start tracking them, figure out what happens, and have fun. Have a good time with it. Everything I talk about here, it's all linked up. The episodes are linked in each episode. There's different resources to different things. Go check that out, the socialchameleon.show. And there's books, different whatever resources in each episode. Not just only each episode there, all the episodes, and also on the page too. There's different resources all around for you folks to check out. And then on to this week's challenge. I challenge you folks to reread your favorite book or your most influential book. Revisit your favorite place or rewatch your favorite movie. And I want you to think about this when you're doing these things. Is it the same as you remember it? What's different? Are you different? Is life or situations different? What new themes or lessons can you draw from these different either books or places or movies or whatever it is you're revisiting? What can you draw from them now? What are the themes or the lessons or different things that's there? Listen, it shouldn't be the same. You go back to these things, you should be a different person. You have done different, more things in your life. You're older, you're wiser, you're more experienced. So these things aren't going to be the same. They're going to be different, especially when you go back and you reread books, or even if you visit influential places or favorite movies, you're going to see something different. You're going to learn something different. You're going to pick up something new because you're in a different place in your life. You're in a different situation. There's different things, maybe challenges or opportunities, whatever it is that's going on in your life. You're going to find new things. And I challenge you folks, revisit these things that you love in your life. And as always, if you like what we have going on, let us know. If you have ideas for maybe one of the episodes that can become next year's top 5 or what this year, the 2020 top 5, let me know. Share it with me. Email us, info@socialchameleon.show. Love to hear you folks' ideas. You have a book idea you want us to review, let us know. If you like what we have going on, the best way to help is to share the show. Share it with your friends, share it with your families, coworkers, whatever it is. Maybe there's some episode in here that you have somebody in mind that needs or wants to hear it. Share it with them. It's the best way to support the show. If you like what we have going on, leave us a like, review. on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, whatever podcasting you want. If you love, we're going on YouTube. Share, comment, like, whatever on there. In between episodes, you can catch us all week long at the Social Chameleon Show on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Also, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube if you enjoy the video version, or on your favorite podcast app. Especially if you're new, please hit that subscribe button. For past episodes and links to everything I talk about, not only in this episode, but all episodes, you can head over for show notes at